Imagine investing $50,000 today. You have two choices. You can buy a piece of land and hope its value increases over the next 10 years. Or you can plant thousands of oil palm trees and build an asset that produces income year after year. Both have made people wealthy. Both require patience. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Which one actually puts more money in your pocket over time? Most people assume real estate is always the safer and more profitable investment. But when you compare the numbers, the cash flow, the risks, and how wealth is actually built, the answer isn't as obvious as many people think. Today, we're going to compare oil palm farming and real estate the way an investor would, not with emotions, but with real-world economics. By the end of this video, you'll know which investment creates more income, which one grows faster, and why some experienced investors quietly own both. Section 1. Why people love real estate. Real estate has always been one of the world's favorite investments. People buy land, they buy houses, they buy apartments, then they wait. Sometimes they rent them out. Sometimes they simply hope prices rise over the years. And historically, property has created enormous wealth. There are families that became millionaires simply because they bought land decades ago. But here's something many beginners don't understand. Real estate usually doesn't make you rich because you own it. It makes you rich because of where you own it. Location changes everything. A piece of land outside a growing city can multiply in value. Another piece of land just a few miles away may barely change for years. That's why two investors can buy land at the same time and end up with completely different results. Real estate depends heavily on development. Roads, businesses, population growth, government projects, infrastructure. Without these, land appreciation can be painfully slow. Section 2. How oil palm farming is different. Now let's look at oil palm. Unlike land that simply waits for someone to buy it, an oil palm plantation is a productive asset. Every mature tree works like a tiny business. Each harvest produces fresh fruit bunches. Those fruits become crude palm oil, palm kernel oil, animal feed, industrial products, and hundreds of everyday consumer goods. Instead of waiting for buyers, the trees generate products that people already need. That's a completely different business model. You're not depending only on appreciation. You're producing something the market consumes every single day. The moment your plantation reaches maturity, it starts creating recurring income. And that's where the comparison becomes interesting. Section 3. The big difference. Cash flow. This is where many investors make a costly mistake. They focus only on asset value, but wealthy investors often focus on cash flow. Imagine buying land for $50,000. 5 years later, it's worth $80,000. Congratulations. You've made $30,000 on paper, but unless you sell it, that money isn't actually in your pocket. Now imagine using that same money to establish a well-managed oil palm plantation. For the first few years, you're investing, preparing land, buying seedlings, applying fertilizer, maintaining the farm. There isn't much income yet, but once production begins, the plantation can generate revenue every harvesting season. Instead of waiting 10 years to profit from appreciation, you're building an asset that can potentially pay you every month during productive years. That's the power of cash flow. And cash flow gives investors something appreciation alone cannot. It gives them the ability to reinvest. Section 4. The power of reinvestment. This is where wealth starts accelerating. Imagine your plantation generates enough income each year to plant even more trees. Next year you have a larger plantation, then even more income, then more expansion. Your asset starts financing its own growth. Now compare that to vacant land. Unless you sell part of it or borrow against it, the land itself usually doesn't create money for expansion. One investment is producing income. The other is waiting for appreciation. Neither approach is wrong. They're simply different. Section 5. The risks people ignore. Many people believe real estate has no risk. That's simply not true. Markets slow down. Property prices stagnate. Governments change regulations. Construction costs rise. Rental vacancies increase. Maintenance expenses never disappear. Oil palm farming has risks too: weather, pests, diseases, poor farm management, price fluctuations, harvesting challenges, labor shortages. Every investment comes with uncertainty. The difference is learning how to manage those risks instead of pretending they don't exist. Professional investors don't chase investments with zero risk. They choose investments where their rewards justify the risks. Section 6. Which one grows faster? The answer depends on your definition of growth. If you're measuring land value, real estate may outperform during periods of rapid urban development. If you're measuring annual income, a productive oil palm plantation can outperform because it's generating cash, while the land itself may simply sit there. Think about owning a fruit tree. The tree itself may not increase dramatically in value every year, but the fruit it produces creates continuous income. Oil palm works in a similar way. You're not only investing in land, you're investing in production. Section 7. Why some investors combine both. Here's something interesting. Many successful agricultural investors eventually buy real estate, and many wealthy real estate investors eventually buy farmland. Why? Because each investment solves a different problem. Real estate can preserve wealth. Agriculture can generate ongoing income. Income from the farm can buy more property. Property can provide security and diversification. Instead of choosing one forever, experienced investors often use one asset to acquire another. That's how portfolios become stronger. Section 8. A simple example. Let's imagine two friends. David buys a piece of land. Michael develops an oil palm plantation. 10 years later, David's land has doubled in value. Excellent investment. Meanwhile, Michael's plantation has been producing income for several years. Some of that income paid living expenses. Some expanded the plantation. Some bought additional farmland. Some purchased rental property. Who became wealthier? There isn't one universal answer. It depends on management, market conditions, timing, and discipline. But notice something important. Michael had opportunities to create additional investments while David was largely waiting for appreciation. Cash flow creates options. Options create flexibility, and flexibility often creates more wealth. Section 9. The hidden advantage of oil palm. One advantage people rarely discuss is inflation. As prices increase over time, agricultural products often become more valuable because people continue buying food and everyday consumer products. Palm oil is used in cooking, soap, cosmetics, food processing, industrial manufacturing. Demand doesn't disappear simply because the economy slows down. People still consume these products. That's one reason agricultural businesses have remained important across generations, not because they're easy, but because they produce something society constantly needs. Section 10. Who should choose real estate? Real estate may suit you if you prefer lower day-to-day involvement. You want a long-term store of wealth. You're investing in a rapidly developing location. You have patience and don't need immediate income. For many people, that's a perfectly reasonable strategy. Section 11. Who should choose oil palm farming? Oil palm farming may suit you if you're comfortable waiting several years before production begins. You're willing to manage the farm properly or hire competent managers. You want an asset capable of generating recurring income for many years. You're thinking beyond quick profits. Successful plantations are built by people who think in decades, not months. Conclusion. So, which investment is actually more profitable? The truth is, neither investment wins in every situation. Real estate excels at long-term appreciation. Oil palm farming excels at long-term production and recurring cash flow. If your goal is simply owning valuable assets, real estate can be an excellent choice. If your goal is building an income-producing asset that keeps working year after year, oil palm farming offers advantages that many investors overlook. The wealthiest investors rarely ask, which investment is better? Instead, they ask, how can each investment help build my overall wealth? Because lasting wealth isn't built by chasing trends. It's built by owning assets that continue creating value long after you've made the investment. And that's exactly why oil palm farming continues attracting serious investors around the world. If you enjoyed this comparison and want more realistic videos about oil palm farming, agricultural investing, and building long-term wealth through productive assets, subscribe to the channel. Next week, we'll break down another investment comparison using real numbers and practical examples that most people never see. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.